There's a place He comes to me. Though I'm blind, He helps me see. Though I see dimly in this place, one day I'll see Him face to face.
This is Kurt Kaikonen, pastor of Calvary Chapel, Waterford, at your neighborhood church. Today on Face to Face, we'll be in the book of Exodus. So grab your Bibles and let's get started. If you want to hear this complete message in its entirety, go to yourneighborhoodchurch.com, where you can download Your Neighborhood Church app at the App Store. I believe that the Lord, that He gives us a lot of territory to conquer. He has all these things that He's planned to do in our lives, and He's given them to us, but we never claim them. We may claim some, and we may even claim a lot, but I believe He's given us a lot more than we could ever imagine. And then God tells them the reasons why He doesn't give them everything at once. And I believe it's the same way in our lives, where God doesn't give us everything we ask for at once, at one time. And that's because I think He waits for us to grow. He waits till we're mature enough so that we can receive it. And it's just like Israel here. He's waiting till Israel grows because they're too small. They're too small to claim everything that God has for them. So they're going to have to wait till they increase. Because if they received it now, all the beasts in the field, they would start to destroy them. And I'm not really sure. I just might be making things up. But sometimes I think maybe our beast could be things like our pride, that he doesn't give us everything, or sometimes how He doesn't give us all riches, because you can see how riches can ruin a person by having too much too soon with not enough wisdom. And then God tells them not to make any covenants with the inhabitants of the land, that there'll be a snare to them. And that's the same with us when we make alliances with people in the world that have worldly ways, and where we might not say like they do that they serve other gods, but you kind of know that they don't serve our God, because their relationship with God looks nothing like ours, that their relationships aren't always based on the Bible. And when we make these alliances with the world, it's a snare to us. And you lost some of your territory because of those compromises. And that kind of stuff you may never get back. So you may not ever get back everything that God had planned for you. Those things could be gone now. And if that's true, there's really nothing you can do about what's happened, because that's the past. And so maybe it was like with a bad business partner, or maybe you had a marriage that didn't make it because your spouse served a different God than you, or maybe you made some kind of alliance that you shouldn't have made. But there's still a lot of territory for you to claim if you follow this same angel, this same Jesus, and you do what He told them to do. If you will hear Him and you will obey Him, it says here, He will fight your enemies too. And He will bring you into the place that God has prepared for you. And we'll see as we go through the Bible, Israel, they made covenants with the people of the land that they weren't supposed to, and it really did hurt them. All right. So up to now, since Exodus 20:22, to here where we are in chapter 23:33, this is all a private conversation between God and Moses alone on the mountain. And so now we get to chapter 24, and now God's calling Moses, and now He's to bring his brother Aaron and his two nephews, Aaron's two sons, his two oldest boys, Nadab and Abihu. And then He's also supposed to bring along these 70 elders. But they're only allowed to go so far, where still only Moses could come near the Lord. And then Moses here, he tells all the people everything the Lord had just told him. He tells them all about these judgments. And without any hesitation, they all agreed at once. And it says, just like they were one person, they agree, though they will never keep all these laws. But by them agreeing, it was very good to God that they agreed to become His people. And so now Moses, he starts writing all these words down, and he creates this book, and it's called the Book of the Covenant. And it's the same stuff that we're reading in this book now. And you have to see here that not each individual person here, they all have their own individual covenant. It's all the same one, and it's a written covenant, and it's all written in this book. That's the same for us. All of the conditions for our covenant with God, they're all written down in one book. None of us has our own special covenant with God. It's not like there's more conditions for some people and less for other people, where you have your own special rules for your own covenant with God. Okay, so now on the very next morning, Moses, he gets up really early and he gets really busy, and he brings his book and he builds an altar and he makes 12 pillars with the rocks to represent the 12 tribes. And this covenant, it's going to be an agreement that's to be bound in blood. So this is like becoming blood brothers. And Moses, he appoints young men to bind the oxen and to make these sacrifices. And he picks young men because this is going to be hard work, and it's going to take strong young men to be able to tie those oxen to the altar. And then the blood is collected. And then he sprinkles half of it on the altar. Then Moses, he reads the whole book that he wrote to the people. And they say the same things that they had just told him the day before. They say it again, and they confirm their commitment, saying, all that the Lord has said, we will do. We will be obedient. And then in my mind, it's kind of shocking what happens next, because now Moses, he starts splattering all this blood on all the people. And so it's getting on all their faces and all their clothes. And then you see everybody around you with all this blood dripping off you. But this is very serious. And so it's not a covenant made in water or oil. This is all warm blood. And then they're told, this is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you according to these words. Okay, so then I hear this. Now my mind, it runs way forward, and it runs to Jesus, to the Last Supper in that upper room where he takes that third cup at the Passover meal. And he says almost the same exact words. This cup, which is poured out for you, is the new covenant in my blood. Where Jesus uses that cup of wine to tell them what's going to be happening to him the next day when he's bound, and which was a far bloodier scene than what we see back here with Moses on this mountain. And where Jesus's blood was sprinkled for our covenant. And then here with Moses, he has half of the blood sprinkled on the altar, and then half of the blood is sprinkled on the people. And what that shows is that both of these parties here, that God and the people, they are mutually bound in this covenant. And with Jesus's blood, it's the same for us. God, he has bound himself to us when we receive Jesus's blood for us. Because the Father, he himself, he also received the same blood of Jesus on his altars. And that's the sacrifice, and that's the blood of our covenant. All right, so now after this covenant is made, the same people that God had called up to the mountain, which was Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 elders, they all have peace with God. And they're having fellowship with God, where they're able to eat with him, and where it says they saw God. And it's unclear exactly what they saw. And some people think, well, they saw the bottom of his feet. And some people think that, they saw Jesus. But it says that they saw God. And it does say that they saw the pavement that was under his feet. And it was bluer and clearer than our sky. But this wasn't the same experience for when Moses said he saw God. It wasn't like the same face-to-face experience that Moses had. And then it says, on the nobles of the children of Israel, he did not lay his hand. And what that means is he didn't kill them, because these nobles, they saw God and they didn't die. Instead of dying, they had fellowship with God. And this is because all their sins were forgiven by the sprinkling of the blood. And the word noble here, it actually just means corner peg. All right, so now after lunch, the Lord calls Moses and tells him to come up to him. And he says that he has these copies written for him, these 10 commandments for him, that he wrote it all down for him. He needs to come up and get it so that he can teach the people. And so now he takes his assistant, Joshua, and you always find that often it's the assistant who becomes the next leader, because Joshua here, he's in training. And so I think, and I don't think it's very important, but I kind of wonder, I wonder if Joshua was one of the 70 elders, because I don't read where he had to go back down off the mountain to go take him up with him. And then Moses tells the rest of the elders just to wait where they are. And he says, wait here for us. And then Moses puts Aaron and Hur in charge. And so Aaron and Hur, those are the same guys that lifted up his arms in that battle against Amalek. And we're going to see later that they didn't really do a good job being left in charge. And then Moses and Joshua, they ascend to the mountain. But it says that the Shekinah glory, the cloud of God, that it rested on the mountain for 6 days. So they were just up there for 6 days, couldn't go any further and just waiting. And then God called Moses up there alone. And it says that when he called Moses up, he said it was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain. And so it always kind of makes me think of those mountain fires that you see in California when it's on fire. And so I picture Moses walking off into the cloud and then walking into the fire. But I don't know what it was like, but I do think that Moses was very brave. And then we're told that he's going to be up there for 40 days and for 40 nights, and he won't have any food or water. And what's going to be happening up there, besides him just picking up a copy of the 10 Commandments, is that God is going to show Moses what heaven looks like. He's going to show him how the heavenly tabernacle looks. And Moses, he's supposed to take all these patterns, because Moses now, he's going to come back and he's to reproduce it, the way that heaven is laid out, the real sanctuary, because that's what heaven is. Heaven has the real sanctuary, and he's supposed to come and make a reproduction. And what he makes, it will just be a shadow of what's real, but it's going to be this likeness so that Israel, God's covenant people, can worship God on earth the way that God is worshiped in heaven. And so that's what we're going to be going through the next week, the building of this tabernacle and with all its furniture and the designing of all the priestly garments. But we're not going to be going through it in detail, because a lot of it is really repetitive and a lot of it is just a bunch of technical measurements. And I'm not saying it's not good to read. It's good to read. It's the Bible. It's all really good. It's important. But I'm afraid that if I read it to you and we go into it in detail, I will lose most of us. I will lose me, because it's really long and it's really detailed and it's very repetitive. And if we did that, it would take us weeks to get through it. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to read it, and I'm going to try to summarize it and to teach whatever I can understand out of it. But I'm going to try to get through that section kind of fast. So today we have Moses. He's going up the mountain, and then we'll have that week where we'll talk about the furnishing of the tabernacle. And then hopefully we'll get through that, and then we'll have Moses coming back down the mountain again.
You've been listening to Face to Face. Face to Face on this radio station has been provided by Your Neighborhood Church. If you want to help support Face to Face and put this program on other stations just like yours, you can contact us at yourneighborhoodchurch.com or write Your Neighborhood Church, P.O. Box 500, Romeo, Michigan 48065.
There's a place he comes to me. Though I'm blind, he helps me see. Though I see dimly in this place, one day I'll see him face to face.
Tune in again tomorrow at this same time as we continue to go through the Bible.